10,000 years ago, the world was a place of absolute silence and constant movement. Our ancestors did not possess cities or maps or names for the centuries. They followed the herds, reading destiny in the stars and danger in the scent of rain. But then, a silent revolution sprouted in the valleys of the Levant. People who once only gathered what the earth gave began to bend the will of nature, planting cereals and stacking mud bricks until pyramids rose higher than cathedrals and scripts fixed human memory in clay forever. The story of civilization began with the end of the ice. Around 9700 BC, the climate stabilized and Mesopotamia became the womb of humanity. In places like Jericho, we see the birth of protection in massive walls and watchtowers because for the first time, human beings had something to lose. Yet before the cities, there was the spirit. At Göbekli Tepe, hunter-gatherers who did not even know pottery moved 20-ton pillars because the need to worship something greater came before the need to eat. By the time Uruk swelled into a metropolis, we invented writing not for poetry, but for bureaucracy, giving humanity a memory that does not die with its owner. In the cradle of the Tigris and Euphrates, the Sumerians realized that water was both a god and a slave. They mastered the art of irrigation, turning treacherous swamps into golden fields of barley, a feat of engineering that required thousands of men to move in unison. This collective labor gave birth to the first hierarchy, as priests claimed the right to manage the surplus in the name of the gods. They looked at the stars not just in wonder, but as a clock, dividing the circle into 360 degrees and the hour into 60 minutes, a pulse of time we still live by today. As cities like Ur and Lagash grew, they became laboratories of human nature, where the first kings realized that a wall of laws was often stronger than a wall of stone. But the peace of the valley was always a fragile thing, shattered by the ambition of men like Sargon of Akkad, who claimed he was left to drift in a basket as a babe, only to become the first true conqueror. He did not just take cities, he tried to erase the borders between them, creating a prototype for every empire that would follow. His successors, like Naram-Sin, went further, declaring themselves divine, as if the weight of so much power could only be carried by a god. Yet the earth had its own laws, and a century of drought eventually brought the Akkadian dream to its knees, proving that even the most powerful king is at the mercy of the rain. The legacy of Mesopotamia shifted toward the Babylonians, where Hammurabi etched his code into a diorite stela, formalizing the terrifying but stable logic of an eye for an eye. This was the moment when justice ceased to be a whim and became a permanent fixture of the state, a contract written in stone that even a king had to acknowledge. While Mesopotamians fought over canals, the Indus Valley flourished in an unsettling silence. Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa were cities of frightening precision, with sewers and bathrooms that the West would not match for millennia.
yet they left no palaces and no statues of generals. They standardized the very bricks of their world, ensuring that a builder in the mountains used the same proportions as one by the sea, a level of bureaucratic unity that suggests a deep, shared social contract. They left behind thousands of small soapstone seals etched with unicorns and bulls, yet we cannot read their language. It remains a whisper behind a wall of baked clay. This was a civilization that valued the flow of clean water more than the flow of blood in conquest, a rare anomaly in the violent ledger of human history. The Indus people were masters of the sea as well as the grid, building the world's first tidal dock at Lothal to trade with distant Sumer. They exported carnelian beads and fine cotton, connecting the high plateaus of Afghanistan to the bustling ports of the Persian Gulf in a vast early network of globalization. But their brilliance was tied to the rhythm of the monsoons and the stability of the great Sarasvati River. When the climate shifted and the rivers began to wander or dry up, the cities did not burn, they simply hollowed out. The writing disappeared, the standardized bricks were forgotten, and a civilization of millions returned to the quiet life of the village, leaving their straight streets to be buried by the dust of 4,000 years. To the south, Egypt followed the pulse of the Nile, where the Great Pyramid was built not by lashed slaves, but as a national project funded by bread and beer. They fused engineering with theology, anchored by the belief that the cosmos functioned only if the pharaoh preserved a sacred harmony known as Maat. The Old Kingdom was a time of absolute vertical power, where the king was the sun itself made flesh, and his tomb was the ladder to the stars. They spent centuries perfecting the art of permanence, quarrying millions of tons of limestone and granite to ensure that their names would outlast the very mountains they mimicked. As the Old Kingdom faded, a more humanized Egypt emerged in the Middle Kingdom, where the pharaohs were no longer distant sun gods, but shepherds of the people, portrayed with weary eyes and heavy brows. They expanded the irrigation of the Fayum, turning a swamp into a breadbasket, and democratized the afterlife through the coffin texts, ensuring that even a commoner could navigate the dangers of the Duat. But the security of the valley was broken by the Hyksos, invaders with chariots and composite bows, who forced the Egyptians to learn the art of war. This trauma birthed the New Kingdom, an age of imperial expansion, where figures like Hatshepsut sent fleets to the mysterious land of Punt, and Thutmose III led his chariots to the Euphrates, turning Egypt from a secluded sanctuary into the superpower of the ancient world. The height of this glory was captured by Ramses the Great, who covered the land in colossi and propaganda, declaring victory in battles that were actually stalemates. He was a master of the image, building temples like Abu Simbel that were designed to intimidate the very sun into submission. But beneath the gold and the monuments, the strain of empire was showing, as the first recorded labor strike in history occurred under his successor. The sea peoples arrived like a storm from the Mediterranean, and though Egypt survived, the cost of defense drained the spirit of the Nile. The pharaohs who followed would watch as their gold was stripped to pay tribute to new masters, but the stone shells of their ambition remained, haunting every generation that has walked the sands since. On the plains of the Yellow River, China forged its identity in the fire of bronze and the cracks of oracle bones used to question ancestors. They created the mandate of heaven, a powerful political concept asserting that a king rules only as long as he is just. This birthed a millennial search for order that eventually led Qin Shi Huangdi to unify the land with an iron fist, standardizing the world around him and seeking immortality behind an army of terracotta asters. He abolished the old feudal ways, replacing bloodlines with a meritocracy of bureaucrats, ensuring that the state's eyes reached into every village. But the Qin's order was a suffocating one, and it took the Han dynasty to soften the blow while keeping the structure. They adopted Confucianism as their soul, creating an empire that valued the scholar as much as the soldier, where